Hey, welcome back everyone. This week is a lot warmer than it was in the last episode, which is good because I have a few repairs to do on some of the windows on the second floor. This one has got a giant crack across the front of it, and the one in the next room over isn't much better. This window appears to be just fine, but when I open up the latch, it does that. So the obvious answer would be just go to the store and buy 2 replacement windows, and that'll fix the problem. Well, I have a different plan. If I just go and buy 1 replacement window instead of 2 and not replace this window or the one in the other room, that'll fix the problem. I know, that doesn't make much sense, does it? Okay, well, come with me out to the hallway and I'll show you what I'm talking about. This window is the same size as the ones in the other 2 bedrooms. So if I take the bottom sash out of this window and replace it with the bottom sash in the master bedroom, that'll fix that window. And if I take the top sash out of here and replace it with the top sash in the little bedroom above the stairs, that'll fix that window too. So the only thing left to do would be pull out the old frame, put in a new window, and that will fix all of my window problems on the second floor. Plus, it'll save me $160 because I will only have to have bought 1 window.
To remove the window, I start off by sliding up the vinyl window stops to access the screws. Then, I unscrew the 2 screws at the bottom, 2 at the top, and pull the window out of the frame. The new window gets slid back into the frame and is held in place with the same 4 screws from the previous window. Finally, the window stops at the bottom get snapped back into place. Over in the little bedroom, I lift out the bottom and top sashes from the old hallway window and set them off to the side. Then, I go over to the broken window and lift out the top sash. With a blade screwdriver, I twist both of the slots to the up position on the pivot lock shoes and insert the right and left pins of the window sash into those shoes. The sash gets locked into the track and tested to make sure it will stay up on its own. Everything is working fine, so I close and lock up the window. Now that the work is almost done, Caesar shows up for a quick inspection. The broken sash gets removed from the pivot lock shoes, and the replacement sash goes back in the same way as it did in the other bedroom.
There is one other option I could have gone with, so I wouldn't have had to have sacrificed the window out in the hallway for replacement parts for the front 2 windows here. And that is just going to a website which sells replacement parts for old vinyl windows. Now, I looked into that before I even bought the replacement window for the hallway, and it just didn't look like it was going to happen. So what happened is this is the window sash from the little bedroom, and its problem was the pins on the side of the sash just sheared off. It looks like they're made out of cast aluminum or pot metal, smelter maybe, I'm not really sure, but I think that's the reason why they sheared off the way they did. Now, I looked all over the internet and I couldn't find this exact type. There are lots of window pins out there, but I couldn't find anything that looked similar to this that would have worked for these windows. Now, if I'd known the manufacturer's name, I probably could have found the right part, and that would have fixed this window for probably about 10 bucks, but it just didn't happen. Now, this window would have been pretty easy to fix because all I got to do is take it to my local glass shop, and what they do is they just cut the top off, and then they slide the glass out, slide new glass in, heat weld the top, and then the window frame is done. But what they can't do is take the grid out of here and put it inside the new glass, nor can they order this glass with the grid in it. So if these windows were in the back of the house, I don't think it would really matter. But because they're in the front, and that's something that everyone sees every day, I wanted the front of the house to look good. So they had to have 2 matching windows, and that's the reason why I sacrificed the window in the hallway for the front 2. So let's go move on to the next project, which is working on the window trim. Back in episode 1 during the walkthrough of the house, I mentioned how ugly this trim looked because the insulation was just hanging out. And I thought one way to fix that would be to just take some trim and nail it up there, and that would cover up the insulation. But Looking at it now, it just looks like a bad idea. Even if I stain this up to match the old trim, it would just still look pretty bad to me. So I thought about it for a while, and I thought if I took this board off and cut down the two side pieces to the height of the window and then nailed it back on, that would look a whole lot better. It would cover up the insulation, and it would look as if whoever installed this window actually bought the right size window to begin with. So I did a test version of this out on the window in the hallway, so come check it out. This is how it turned out, and it looks pretty good to me. It looks as if it's been like this for the last 100 years. Well, there was one issue I had when I pulled this board off from up here. All of the plaster behind it came off with it. So I had a lot of replastering to do up above, and you know, it was a little bit of work, but it was worth the price to pay to actually have the window frame look the way it was supposed to. Under here, you can see there's a 2x4, and that gives some support to this trim piece. But after the window is foamed and caulked, I can cover that 2x4 right up with a piece of window stop.
Back over at the bedroom window, I take a measurement from the bottom of the lintel to the top of the window and transfer it over to the left and right sides of the window trim. Then, with the framing square tight to the edge of the window trim, I extend the lines over. The fastest way to cut the trim is with the circular saw, but that saw leaves a really splintery edge. The best saw that I have to use is the oscillating saw, but it's difficult to keep this saw square to the trim while cutting. So, if I use a piece of 2x4 as a guide, I can keep the saw square to the trim. I place the framing square on top of the trim and rest the piece of 2x4 on top. Then screw in both screws into the unwanted piece of window trim. Now I start cutting into the trim on the left and right side. You can see how well the 2x4 guide helps to keep the saw blade level while cutting through the trim. The 2x4 comes off, and I take my time, carefully prying up the trim on 3 sides, doing my best not to damage it. Using locking pliers, I pull the nails out through the back. I've found out the hard way to never hammer nails back out through the front of a piece of wood that I want to keep, because this is what it looks like. It's a lot harder to fix this afterwards, so it's best to pull the nails out through the back or cut them off with a right angle grinder. The lintel goes back up, and there's a big gap at the top. And the old window frame's exposed too. The hallway window didn't have this problem. I take a measurement, and it's 5 1/8 inches. This is way bigger than the one in the hall. That one was only 3 1/2 inches. So I go check the other 4 windows, but they're all less than the back bedroom, but still different sizes. And all of them are larger than the one in the hall. To fix this problem, I have to remove the top of the old window frame. I set the lintel up as a template and place a mark at the top on both sides of the frame. Then, just for good measure, I cut a 1/4 inch below my mark, so when the lintel finally goes back up, there will be no chance the old frame will be seen. The only way I can get the top of the frame out is to remove some of the wood below it. I make relief cuts on each side and pull out the unwanted material. Now, with a little persuasion from the pry bar, the top of the frame gets removed. I need some wood support for the drywall that will go in where the wood frame used to be. The 2x4 doesn't fit in all the way, so I break out a little bit of plaster and find a gap in the wall without insulation. I fill the gap in with a can of spray foam and recess the board in the hole about the same thickness as the drywall. The board gets secured to the studs in the wall, and a piece of drywall gets fitted and screwed on to the board. The top board of the old frame gets cut down and recycled as the bottom support for the lintel. It gets nailed into place, and finally, the lintel goes back up. It's nailed into place with 16 gauge finished nails. 1 window down, 4 more to go.
think I understand what the previous owner was thinking when they put smaller windows in the old wooden frames. Now, of all the 6 windows of the second floor, none of them are the same size. I think they vary between 1/8 to 2 inches of each other. And I don't know why. You would think by 1920 they would have had standardized windows made by then, but for whatever reason, this house did not get those. So what the previous owner could have done to have solved the window size problem would be just to get the measurements of all the windows, go to their hardware store, and special order windows that will fit perfectly. But they didn't do that, and I think the reason why is because of cost. Special order windows cost more than your standard stock window like this, and they also take time to make. They can take up to 2 weeks back when these windows were put in, and today, because of all the world's problems, it can take up to 2 months to get special order windows produced, and that is just wrong. There is no reason for that. So I understand that time and money were a problem, and they probably were trying to get these windows done in a weekend or maybe even a day. So that's why they went with not special order windows, but with stock windows instead. Now, for the trim situation, I have no idea what they were thinking. I don't even know if they had a plan for that yet. But they may have thought of putting a board up top to cover up the insulation, or they might have really went extreme like I did and cut everything down and made it all fit properly. Personally, I think this was the more complex way to go, but a better in the long term, as far as looks and everything else, the best way to go. Once everything is plastered, you'll never know there was a wrong size window in that original window frame hole. So the next thing to work on is to get some insulation put in around these windows.
Before I can insulate around the windows, I have to remove the old insulation. I know, this sounds counterproductive. Years ago, stuffing fiberglass insulation in the gap around windows and doors was the best thing you could do to slow down a draft. Before that, people used to stuff in bits of rags or newspaper. Neither of those stopped the draft either, but at least with newspaper, there was something interesting to read 100 years later after the window got replaced. Take a look at this insulation I pulled out. This piece looks almost new, but this other piece is a lot darker, and that's because air has been moving through it, capturing dirt and other things brought in by the air. That's why some furnace filters are made out of fiberglass, because fiberglass is really great at capturing airborne contaminants. Houses are built a lot tighter today, so foam insulation is what we use around windows and doors. It completely stops a draft, and it insulates a little bit too. I am notorious for overfilling with this stuff, and as it expands and dries, it makes a really big mess for me to clean up later. A fun little hack is to put masking tape over top of the gap, and this helps contain the foam so it doesn't get out of control. The worst thing about foam insulation isn't that it drips everywhere or that it gets all over your hands. But the worst part is trying to convince Caesar that even though it looks and sounds like I'm holding onto a can of whipped cream, I am actually not squirting whipped cream into the wall. Oh, Caesar, what am I going to do with you?
I want to show you how well the tape has held back the foam, and you can see there's nothing that's squeezed out the sides. It's just a little bit out the top and the bottom. So let's pull this off and we can see. So that is really well contained compared to what it would look like if I didn't put the tape on at all. Up here, I intentionally did not put the tape on just to show you the difference between the two. And it really expanded out well past to where I wanted it to. So this comes off pretty easy. This is one of those trim saws you can get from Harbor Freight. And you just slide it down beside on both sides, and it scrapes right off. And there's a little bit of residue left on the window, but that just wipes right off with some denatured alcohol on a rag. And to cover up the ugliness on the side here, like I said, I was just going to be putting some of the old window trim back over like that, but I don't have enough of this
for all the 6 of the windows on the second floor. The previous owners saved a lot of the trim when they put it up in the attic, but they didn't save enough for me to use here. So I went to the hardware store and I bought some new. This is almost exactly the same profile as the old stuff, so it'll look really good. But what I would normally do in this situation would be just to cut it to size and then nail it on, and then mask everything off on both sides, stain and shellac everything, and then pull off the tape. But I'm going to try something a little different. These are all my uncut pieces, and what my plan is to get all of these stained and shellacked up tonight. That way tomorrow when I get back, I can just cut them down to size and install them. By doing it this way, I won't be wasting any of my masking tape. So I have a lot of work ahead of me. I will see you back in the morning. Good morning. I just cut up the last of the window trim, so let's go see how well it fits. Oh, it looks like it's just a little bit tight there. Let's hold it up, and I'd say we'll take about a 1/16 of an inch off. Okay, let's see if this fits a little better. Yeah, that's nice and tight, but not over tight, and it holds itself in place. So I'm just doing a dry fit with all the pieces here. Everything's holding. And what I did with the sides is I intentionally cut them an 1/8 inch longer than the height from the bottom to the top here. You can see there's a little bit of spring here, but once this is nailed tight, that top joint stays nice and tight. Now that I know everything fits, I can take this trim out, because there's one other thing I have to do, and that is put some caulking on the edge around of the window and the old frame, because the gap between the two varies all around the window, and I couldn't get spray foam in all the spots. So this caulking just stops any draft that could come in next to the window. While the caulking is still wet, I'm just going to push these pieces back into place. I remember which ones go in what order here. Okay, everything still fits. Then I nail on the trim with 1¼ inch finished nails. A little bit of caulking squeezed out in a few places, so I'm just going to wipe that up with a paper towel. The final thing to do is to fill in the nail holes with a little bit of putty. There's just a few more windows to do, and I am done with this part of the project. We are also done with the video for today. So if you liked what you saw, hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you know when the next video is going to come up. Caesar and I will see you next time. Can you be nice? Can you be nice? All right, let's be nice. Let's be nice and fluffy. Let's be nice and fluffy, okay? There we go. All right. This week is a lot warmer than it was in the week. Yeah, okay. So the obvious, all right. So, you got dog hair in my mouth. Ooh, those are my knees going. This is the same window that I bought. I didn't buy this window, okay. Plus, it'll save me $160 because I wouldn't. So I've replaced the bottom sash and the one in the other master bedroom, There's only one master bedroom. So if I take the bottom sash out and replace it with the bottom sash on the second floor, what? Buy the glass with the Caesar in it. And they can buy the glass with the grid in it. Why does it make no sense? Why does this make no sense, Caesar? You're kind of in the way, Caesar. You're kind of in the way. There is one other option I could have gone with. All right. Oh, bless you. Oh, you know what? Helps to plug this saw in.
all of the, yeah, okay. I don't know where this is going. All right, we're gonna try this again. All right, they didn't do that, and I think the reason why is there's a phone ringing. Hold on, GoPro stop recording.